what we plan on doing is we plan on taking over this property, and from day one, having our contractor go in and start renovating the units. Probably going to go, 2 or 3 at a time, so we try to keep the building operational for as long as possible while we're renovating the units. Once we're done with the renovations, we're going to see kind of where we're at. We possibly would refi after we build out the new units. Renovating the units plus building out the pool and our amenity spaces, and seeing if we can increase our income on for a refi, or we can hold off on the refi, see kind of where the market's at in terms of interest rates, and then start building and possibly refining the entire property after the whole project is complete.
Welcome to the Healthy Investor Podcast with Bob Mastroianni, where you and I will learn from successful real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and other highly driven individuals about their journey and the healthy habits and routines that play an integral part of their growth. All right, welcome back to the Healthy Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Bob Mastroianni. I have with me today Lawrence Kutsovsky. Lawrence has been investing in real estate since 2017, mainly focusing on short-term rentals. He's focused on some short-term rentals in the New York area, West Palm Beach, and other parts of Florida. He has some really interesting conversions that he's working on in turning some properties into short-term rental. But I had a lot of interest in learning from someone who specifically focused on real estate that is short-term rentals, Airbnb, VRBO, and the like. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to bring Lawrence on, and so happy to have him on today. So Lawrence, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Bob. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks again for jumping on. So if you can kind of go down the road a little bit, tell me a little bit about your short-term rental investing, where you started, and what you're up to today.
Sure. Yeah. So I started investing in short-term rentals back in 2017. I sold a condo that I had in Florida with my brother and I, and didn't really know about real estate, didn't know, too much about investing. But back in 2017, Airbnb was kind of picking up. So we decided to look in South Florida, where we felt that there's going to be a lot of movement through there, a lot of people, a lot of traffic, things going on. So we decided to purchase a condo out on the beach, little city called Sunny Isles, right in between Fort Lauderdale and Miami. We purchased that one. We started finding a lot of success in 2017, and we figured that we had something there, so we decided to continue on that journey. Bought our second condo in that same city. The first one was a 1-bedroom apartment. Now this one is a 2-bedroom, and same type of deal. We started finding success. We decided to continue on that path and look for short-term rentals. Most recently, we acquired a 4-plex out by the West Palm Beach area, where they had renters in there from month to month. We got those renters out, renovated the units, put some amenities in there, and then put that up on Airbnb. And then we also purchased our first out-of-state Airbnb in South Bend, Indiana, where that one is going under rehab right now. And we are now in contract on our largest deal yet, which is a 12-unit motel out in Clearwater, Florida, where we plan on renovating those units, building a pool, and then it comes with a little piece of land out on the side there. So we are working with a contractor to build an additional 11 units. So going to be 23 or 24 total.
Wow. That's a lot. That's great. So I want to sort of deep dive into these properties a little bit more, just to have a better understanding. So originally in Sunny Isles, purchased a 1-bedroom condo and then a 2-bedroom condo. So 2017, 2018, what does that look like? What do prices look like for a 1 and 2-bedroom condo back then?
So this 1-bedroom condo I purchased in cash for $209,000.
Okay.
And then in 2018, when we purchased the 2-bedroom, that one was 280,000.
Okay. So obviously price increase had happened over that time period, plus the difference
Oh,
between
yeah.
1 bedroom versus 2, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen, I mean, what's happening in South Florida, this major appreciation. So we recently got those condos appraised. The 2-bedroom recently got appraised for I think it was 497,000. So almost double the increase in value. So
Very nice.
seeing
In
a
just
lot
a
of
couple of years.
major, yeah, exactly. Seeing a lot of major developments coming in. A lot of people moving into this area. So that's kind of raising the appreciation here.
Very cool. So interestingly enough, and I want to talk about your next property, but I think the only time I've ever stayed at a short-term rental property, it was actually in West Palm Beach. So
Oh, very nice.
a
Very
few
nice.
years ago, my wife and I went to it was a real estate get-together, educational event. And I think there were 3 couples and 2 stayed in the front house. And then there was an additional unit, sort of back house behind the pool. My wife and I were in the second unit. So that was the only time I think I ever stayed in a short-term rental.
And how was your experience?
My experience was very good. It was a really nice place. It was had a pool. It was clean. It was neat. It was very close to where we needed to be. I could have probably walked to where we wanted to be, but I think we were taking just a short Uber back and forth just to do that. And then, we were in West Palm Beach, which I guess is over the bridge from Palm Beach, correct?
Yes,
And,
correct.
the town name is a little bit deceiving because you hear West Palm Beach, but really it's on the east coast of Florida. But yeah, and then the town was really cool. That was the only time I've ever been to the town. So so you have a fourplex there. Tell me a little bit about what that's like. 4 units, 1 place, just sort of what your systems look like and how you're able to fill units for short-term rentals.
Yeah, so the reason we decided to purchase this property was it's in a unique area where there's a lot of growth happening, and we purchased this fourplex for $700,000. It had month-to-month renters in there that were paying pennies. The units really weren't too bad condition wise. We really had to come in and just make some minor improvements. We didn't have to change the kitchen or anything like that. In 2 of the units, we did renovate the bathrooms. It wasn't much work. We did the whole landscaping improvement on the property. We painted the fourplex. One side of the building is kind of like pinkish, and then the other side of the building is like a light blue. And yeah, we just made some really nice landscaping improvements. We furnished the units really nicely, and yeah, we put it up on Airbnb and immediately started finding success.
So are there specific features that you look for when you're for the property itself? Are you looking for pools and amenities? I mean, I see some properties that are sort of really big properties, right? 8, 9, 10 bedroom properties where they're looking for, maybe they're looking for an activity room where they put gaming and pool tables and those sort of things. And then when you're looking at smaller 1, 2 unit properties, what type of amenities would you look for?
So originally when I started investing back in 2017 and 2018, you can put any run-of-the-mill apartment without any amenities. You just throw it up on Airbnb, VRBO, and you're gonna crush it. You're gonna do really well. Nowadays, because there's a lot more supply, especially in the South Florida area, and Airbnb started getting really popular, we got flooded with a ton of supply. Which started bringing down your nightly rates and your occupancy. So now when we started purchasing our properties, we started looking, okay, what kind of amenities, what kind of value add things that can we do on our properties to differentiate ourselves. What kind of tools can we implement? What kind of technology can we implement? So that's what we did when we purchased this property. We started looking at the property as a whole. The units themselves are kind of small.
Mm-hmm.
So large families wouldn't necessarily stay here. It would just be young couples or somebody traveling, for a concert, or just going to the beach for a week, or things like that. So we put like a little barbecue area. We did some couches. We hung up some lights in between the two complexes, and we really wanted to ensure that people, when they're looking at these photos on Airbnb, that they can envision themselves, hanging out by the barbecue close to the beach, or relaxing, with their significant other on our outside patio. So things like that. We really started looking on AirDNA to see what are the amenities that people are putting on their properties to differentiate themselves.
And you have to forgive me because I'm newbie, obviously, to the short-term rental. So what is AirDNA?
So it's basically you'd call a data aggregator, where it takes in data from all the short-term rentals, not only in your area, but in the country and worldwide. And it gives you kind of like a hyper focus on your specific area. If you put in your city, your zip code, and it kind of tells you, how many 1-bedrooms are out there, how many 2-bedrooms are out there, what kind of amenities do they have, what are their rates, what is their occupancy. It just gives you a bunch of data points.
Okay, that sounds like a very valuable resource. So, I know when we're looking to, for long-term rental, right, we want to try to find out what are other people renting for. And if it's a 1-bedroom, what's a 1-bedroom's valued at? And by the way, what does that 1-bedroom look like, and what amenities does it have? So that I know that if that 1-bedroom's renting for $950 a month, then is my 1-bedroom as good enough to get $950? Is my 1-bedroom better so that I can get more? So this is really a resource similar to that to help you sort of figure out where you'll fit into the market.
Absolutely. Yep. AirDNA I use on a daily basis, and another one is Rabu. Rabu is another type of data resource that you can put in your address, and it basically spits out some competitors and gives you an average of what to expect for your average daily rate as well as your occupancy.
So for your fourplex, did you finance that at all?
Yes, we did conventional financing.
So a question, and I've done a little bit of research into short-term rentals, and obviously I'm trying to learn and using you to try and help educate people who listen here. What's the difference in finance? What do they look at differently? I know when we're looking at long-term rentals, if we're looking in the residential world, oftentimes for long-term rental, if I want to claim my long-term rental, a mortgage company may say, okay, we see what you're collecting as income, and we'll give you 50% of that or something. Obviously, with short-term rentals, there's a difference. You don't have the same exact kind of stability, and you're not locked into an annual lease. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what are the differences that banks are looking for, and how they evaluate a property like that.
Yeah, so the fourplex specifically, because it's not a commercial property, right? It's still a residential property, so they only look at comps in the area. So they don't really use the income approach. But there are banks out there that are really kind of forward thinking. And they would use data from, let's say, AirDNA that would show them, based on what this area is getting as an occupancy and as a average daily rate, they would lend to you based off of that. So those loans are called debt service coverage ratio loans, and they use data from sources like AirDNA to lend to you. So a lot of investors out there are using this method, and it doesn't really lock in your debt to income ratio. So it kind of opens you up to purchase many properties this way.
Interesting.
The interest rate is typically a little bit higher, but investors, the way they underwrite it, they make sure that even with a little higher interest rate, they're still able to perform and be successful.
Okay. So let's talk about the big one. You have this big, exciting project going on. So you purchased a 12-unit motel in Clearwater, and then It has enough land that you're going to build another 12 units on there?
Yeah. So it's a 12 unit, and the 13th unit is being occupied right now by the owners. I'm actually closing on it at the end of the month on the
Okay.
30th. Yeah, we plan on renovating all those units, making them really nice, and working with the city. Just had a meeting yesterday, working with the city to make sure we get all the approvals necessary to build another structure on the property.
Okay. So this would not be considered a conversion now at this point, correct? Or
No, this wouldn't be. No, this we're keeping in short-term rentals and hotel.
Okay. Okay. So it still falls under a similar category as far as the city code is concerned.
Correct.
Okay.
We didn't have to change any of the coding, anything like that. The only code concern we had going into this property was if we were to do any kind of conversions at a future point, we wouldn't be able to because we're not going to have an electric line for the stove, and the city considers if you have an electric line for the stove, that falls into different zoning.
An electric line for the stove. You mean
Yeah.
a separate dedicated breaker for the stove, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Just if you have a residential stove with a line going through your building, the city considers that a separate type of code, and I don't remember exactly what it was.
That's
but
interesting.
Yeah, so we were not going to do that because if we did put stoves, like large stoves in there, you would have different zoning where you can have stays less than 30 days.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I mean, and you know this as well as I do, that each town's a little bit different, and sometimes we deal with a little bit slightly different rules and requirements. I have two properties that are very close to each other. But they're in two different townships. And I remember on the same week, I was in the process of getting COs, and they both had to have a different kind of fire extinguisher. It was so frustrating.
Yeah. Each city, each municipality has their own little rules and regulations. So yeah.
Cool. So is the first step, what is the first step? Is the first step to renovate the existing building, get it up and running, operational, bring some cash in?
Yeah, exactly. So what we plan on doing is we plan on taking over this property, and from day one, having our contractor go in and start renovating the units. Probably going to go, 2 or 3 at a time. So we try to keep the building operational for as long as possible while we're renovating the units. Once we're done with the renovations, we're going to see kind of where we're at. We possibly would refi after we build out the new units. Renovating the units plus building out the pool and our amenity spaces, and seeing if we can increase our income on for a refi, or we can hold off on the refi, see kind of where the market's at in terms of interest rates, and then start building and possibly refining the entire property after the whole project is complete.
Wow. See, I've looked at several and underwritten several deals in Clearwater and Clearwater Beach. I mean, Clearwater Beach is, as you know, a little more expensive, but yes. Clearwater is a really cool town. It's in a really good area, decent schools right out of Tampa Bay. So I could definitely see Airbnb being successful in that area. In an area like that, is there what do the seasons look like? How do you know how cyclical it would be as far as what seasons?
Yeah, so busy season based on kind of my research and just talking with a bunch of property managers out there, is the busy season will typically be from like November to, I would say, May, and then you get a kind of a little break in the summer where occupancy kind of fizzles out a little bit. And then it kind of picks back up again. I guess, it's September, October, November.
Okay. So yeah, I'm originally from Philly. I live in South Jersey, but I know that, a lot of Phillies fans flock to Clearwater because the Phillies have spring training in Clearwater, and, it's a beautiful town. And then I'm assuming other baseball fans will flock to that area because I know there are a few surrounding towns where there are, from sort of end of February all the way through April 1st, there's a ton of minor league or interleague baseball play and preseason baseball play. So that's probably pretty big there. I also have family who now, not far from Clearwater Beach, they'll rent a property and just go for a month, right? The end of February to like end of March or something like that. So I could definitely see good opportunity there. Definitely during that time season. It's kind of why I asked, because I know of people going that time of year. I just wasn't sure if there were other times that were.
We made, we did our research. We made sure that, we're picking the right location. What's unique about this property is that it sits on Gulf to Bay Road, which is the main road that stretches from Tampa to Clearwater.
Yep.
And there's a lot of traffic going through this area. So the current owners or the previous owners, they're relying just on the drive-by traffic. No marketing on Airbnb,
Wow.
no VRBO, no hotels.com, nothing. They just rely on the 65 or 75,000 cars that drive by every day.
So it sounds like there's opportunity there, because I would assume that most of your short-term rentals are obviously people who are coming from not necessarily just driving by to look for a property, right? I think the days of the internet have changed that a little bit.
Exactly. And we were negotiating with these sellers for 2 months on a specific deal. And when I was sitting at the table with them, and I'm like, why aren't you guys advertising on Airbnb or VRBO? And they just started laughing. They're like, they've been doing this business for so many years and relying just on the drive-by traffic that they didn't even want to try something new or anything like that. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity with these older motels that are in good locations for operators to be able to come in and take these over, implement technology and use some of these resources that are out there to drive up the income.
Cool. So I want to transition over, this is the Healthy Investor Podcast, and I wanted to talk to you. We talked just a little bit before we jumped on here, but just sort of, it's always interesting to me to learn about what sort of habits or routines investors utilize to help either start your day or get your mind going, get yourself in gear, and then how those affect your personal life and your business life. So, do you have any of those that you're currently focusing on?
Yeah, so every morning I like to take a walk with my dog around my community. It just gets kind of get my blood flowing, my brain thinking about things, and kind of jump starts me throughout the day. So I do this 5 to 6 times a week, and it really I've noticed that it helps me kind of build momentum throughout the day.
Clear your mind a little bit, get your head right. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm one of those people that does the same thing, but I do it a little bit faster. But with the running, but I totally understand that. And we've had a dog for about a year now. As a matter of fact, at any given moment, you may hear him jump in the background because he does that from time to time. But those walks are not only good for him, but I find that they're pretty valuable for me too, where it's like, I just need a good 15, 20, 25 minutes of just clear the mind, clear the head, get some fresh air and those kind of things.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. So I want to switch over to the third segment where we ask the same questions of every investor, and normally try to focus on just what your feeling is, what your thoughts are. What is your definition of success? How do you define that?
My definition of success is being able, I think, to achieve financial freedom. I know a lot of investors out there, that's kind of their goal, being able to spend time with your family, doing what you want, when you want. And I think obviously real estate is the vehicle for us to get there. So every day when I wake up, I strive to continue working, continue improving, and hopefully being able to achieve that financial freedom.
So curious, is financial freedom and you don't have to give the specifics, but is financial freedom a specific number for you, or is it a specific lifestyle? Where do you see that?
I think just being able to sustain the current lifestyle that I'm living today. I don't need anything too fancy or nice cars and vacations, things like that. I think it's just being able to really spend time with my family and do what I love, and do it, anytime I want to do it.
Great.
So
Yeah, I love that concept of do what I want, when I want, where I want, and most importantly, with who I want to do it, right?
exactly.
Cool. So moving on to the second question, for someone who's new to investing or even just learning how to focus on their goals and their path to success, could you give a good book recommendation, maybe that helped you out?
Yeah, I actually read a book recently called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it really focuses on the foundational pieces needed, and the steps needed that you to take day in and day out for you to get just a little bit better every single day. And I really love that because if you focus on building out those habits and those systems day in and day out, you're going to find success.
I'm pretty confident, and I should remind myself of this from time to time, but I'm pretty confident that I have that book and I haven't read it yet. And for someone who specifically asks people to talk about what their habits are on my podcast, I probably should get myself in gear and read that.
I highly recommend that book. It was excellent.
Okay, good. So before we get to the final question, first I want to thank you for coming on. This has been a lot of fun. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I don't have experience in the short-term rental world, and I appreciate you bringing some value and some insight into what's going on and what you look for in that industry. So thank you. And how could we support you? How can people reach out and contact you?
Yeah, so you can reach me on LinkedIn. My name is Lawrence Kutsovsky, Kutsovsky. You could also reach me by email, lawrence@moonstone-equity.com. Or you could just text me. My phone number is 917-577-5230. And hopefully I can be a resource to your listeners.
Great. So final question. If you could think back with me to a younger Lawrence, maybe around ages 10 to 12 years old, knowing what you've learned so far on your journey, what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give to young Lawrence, or really any pre-teenage child, to help guide them towards success?
Oh, that's a good question. Pre-teenage child. I wish it could be this easy, but if you can go out and just talk to as many people as possible, take in the information, learn as much as you can. There's tons of people out there that are willing to share what they know. It's just being able to go and try to connect with these people. So if I was a younger guy trying to learn as much as I can, I would just go out and speak to as many people as possible.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. And it's interesting. So you and I saw each other this past weekend at Multifamily Mastery 5. I was fortunate enough to be able to bring my family, my wife and Shannon, and our 11-year-old daughter, Julia. And I love that you gave that piece of advice, because just watching, she had a little bit of an eagerness to learn, but also a little bit of a shyness around, it's overwhelming, right? We walked into a room of 1,200 adults. There were probably a dozen kids there at most at any time during the weekend. So it's a little overwhelming. And I think it's so true. I think so many of us, so many adults would look back and say, man, at that age, I wish I could have taken advantage of that opportunity. But it is tough. It's overwhelming for someone that age to just communicate with adults about those type of matters. So very cool answer.
Yep.
Any other tips you would give?
Yeah, and just besides trying to talk with other people and network, just go out there and start taking action. Start doing it. Don't overanalyze. You can get caught in analysis paralysis. Go out, make it happen, and you'll find success.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. Make sure you check him out, connect with him, connect with Lawrence Kutsovsky. If you're listening in today and you got value out of this, I really appreciate you. Thanks so much, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for joining me on the Healthy Investor Podcast. Check out the show notes for more information about connecting with our guest. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please head on over to iTunes and leave a positive rating and review. It would mean the world to me. I'm grateful for your support, and I wish you an abundance of success on your journey to healthy investments and a healthy life.